Yeah, that's a good problem, is he playing with flowers?
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to get started. It's 10 o'clock, and I'm sure we'll have some more people come in. I'm Rali Weaver. If you're visiting for the first time, today is a very special day, and I'm glad you're with us. We begin with our centering thought. You only grow by coming to the end of something and the beginning of something else. This is from John Irving, World According to Garth. We will now begin. So good to be together today, right following the service. I hope Dennis will be here to take another all-church picture. We haven't taken one in a year. Well, we took one this fall we tried to take one in the fall and spring, but we took one in the fall with the logo banner with the Allen Church, but we haven't taken one as a church together since before the pandemic, so it'll be nice to be photographed. I like keeping track of each church year in this way. We also have a picnic following worship, and I'll need everyone's help to pull out the food and set up the tables, and so I hope that you can help with that and stay and enjoy. We have sandwiches, even if you didn't bring something, there's plenty of food. The most important thing is not in your order of service, and that is that we will be participating in the Flag Day Parade, and if you're interested, you can let the church office know, or you can let Jonathan Pate know. I'm working on a banner, and it should be a fun day. And the church office will remain open until the end of June, so it's regular hours except on Wednesday when the farmers market is here. And if you can, if you need to stop by, or if you need anything, don't hesitate to call. I also will be around a lot more this summer, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And finally, there was one other thing I wanted to say. Yeah. I'm going to keep the Zoom social hour Sunday afternoon open. That's something you can check into without, only with your Zoom credentials. You don't need a host to be there. So if you're interested in going, if you want to connect, I'm sure Janet Hurwitz will be there. There will be other people. So just go right on Sunday afternoon at 11 o'clock and you hopefully will find some people. Or if you want to meet one of your church friends at a different time, you actually can get in there anytime you want. So feel free to use it. I believe that's all the announcements. Please watch your all church emails, which will come sporadically through the summer. Watch the website and mark on your calendar September 11th, when we'll come back together for our water communion service. We will now begin our morning worship. Our opening words are our New Year's poem, a New Year's poem by May Sarton. I also should say that I invite you to bring up your flowers if you have them during the first 10 minutes. As of last time, you can bring them up. You can keep walking around it as much as you want to. The New Year poem by May Sarton. Let us step outside for a moment as the sun breaks through the clouds and shines on wet, new fallen snow. But today we say it grasses. And breathe the new air, so much has died that had to die this year. We are dying away from things. It is necessary. We have to do it. Or shall we be buried under magazines? Too many clothes, too much food. We have dragged it all around like dung beetles who drag piles of dung behind them on which to feed, in which to lay their eggs. Let us step outside for a moment among the ocean clouds, a white field, islands floating in the distance. They have always been there, but we have not been there. We are going to drive slowly and see the small, poor farms, the lovely shapes of leafless trees, their shadows blue on the snow. We are going to learn the sharp edge of perception after a day's fast. There is nothing to fear about this revolution, though it will change our minds. Aggression, violence, machismo are fading from us like old photographs, faintly ridiculous. Did a man actually step like a goose to instill fear? Does a boy have to kill to become a man? There are signs. Young people plant gardens. Fathers change their babies' diapers and are learning to cook. Let us step outside for a moment. It is all there. Only we have been slow to arrive and at a way of seeing it. Unless the gentle inherit the earth, there will be no earth. I invite you to sing with me hymn number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, hymn number 21, and if you have any more flowers to bring to the Lord at this time. Please remain standing and say with me the unison affirmation as is written in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, to serve humanity in love is our covenant with each other and with God. Please be seated. I light our chalice this morning to celebrate the end of our 2022 church year and to say thank you to all of you who've come back in the face of COVID and tried to create some sense of, the new normal. And I also want to light this chalice for all those who can't be with us today, but that we keep in our hearts. I want to remember especially Joan Wazlocki right now, and I did see Judy Barrington this week, but that she's been through some rough travels, and I want to also keep in mind Janet Humble, who's homebound with her, Horowitz, who's thank you, Horowitz, who's homebound with David, and also Martha Leonard and Priscilla King, and anyone else that you can think of. And I'm not going to light our green sanctuary candle in fear of burning something, but I light our chalice this morning and our green sanctuary candle metaphorically, for all the ways we strive to be a more sustainable congregation. For our children's message today, we are going to have our flower communion. So I'll begin by ringing the bell and bringing this sound into our hearts and our minds and our spirits so we can open our listening. We have our flower communion each year as a reminder of a celebration that was carried forth by Maya Kapik, the wife of Norbert Kapik. They were Unitarian. She was a Unitarian minister in Czechoslovakia and in New Bedford. He, during World War II, stayed in Czechoslovakia and was eventually taken to a concentration camp. But one of the rituals that he created was this flower communion that was to celebrate the diversity in a congregation such as ours. And so we celebrate that again today in remembrance of Norbert and Maya. And I do that by hitting the right page here. had it all marked and then I lost it. Yes. We begin by consecrating our flowers with the words in 724, if you want to follow along in your hymnal, written by Robert F. Caper. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of the most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen. And now I invite you forward. Slowly, we'll begin on this aisle, maybe at the front, and then slow, and then back to your seats. And you can choose a flower. I think we have so many people to choose two. And remember, our children made some flowers last week, and those are also a gift to us this morning. I invite you forward for a flower.
These are the children. Thank you. Thank you, Prophet.
And with one more flower communion prayer by Norbert K. Pecker, will close our flower communion ceremony. Let us pray. In the name of Providence, which implants the seed of the future of the flower in the hearts and the longing for people to live in harmony. In the name of the highest, in whom we move, and who makes the mother and father and brother and sister, lover and loner what they are. In the name of the sages and the great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of the age of mutual respect. Let us renew our resolution sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges us from each other. In this holy resolve, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are all God's family. That one spirit, that spirit of love, that unites us and endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen. I invite you to enter into a time of prayer or meditation as is your practice. And if you want, you can focus on the flower. We begin by breathing in peace and breathing out love. Let us be grateful for all the silences in our lives, for with them we may more completely experience sound. Our first reading this morning is from Jedediah Rumi. Wait a second. We're not ready for that yet. An offering to support the saints, support and sustain the ministries of this church will now be given and gratefully received. think that's the fastest usher we've ever had. Our first reading is Keep Moving, Keep Growing by Rumi. If a tree could uproot itself from one place to another, it would never need to fear the saw or any blows of bad luck. Neither the sun nor the moon could lavish their light if they stayed motionless as a rock. How bitter the Euphrates and the Tigris would be if they stayed in one place like the sea. Look how the air sickens because of its inertia. When the water of the sea travels toward the clouds, it frees itself from bitterness and acquires tender power. When fire stays without shooting out flames, it transforms itself to ashes, dead and destroyed. Look how Joseph of Canaan, after leaving his father, went to Egypt and became famous forever. See how Jesus, son of Mary, in his continual wanderings, became the water of life and made the dead rise. I have shown you a few signs. Now learn the rest for yourself. Accomplish your journey beyond yourself and reach God. Our second reading comes from The Art of Happiness, a handbook for living by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Howard C. Cutler, MD. Once there was a disciple of the Greek philosopher who was commanded by his master for 3 years to give money to everyone who insulted him. When this period of trial was over, the master said to him, "Now you can go to Athens and learn wisdom." When the disciple was entering Athens, he met a certain wise man who sat at the gate, insulting everybody who came and went. He also insulted the disciple, who burst out laughing. "Why do you laugh when I insult you?" said the wise man. "Because," said the disciple, "for 3 years I've been paying for this kind of thing, and now you give it to me for nothing." "Enter the city," said the wise man. "It's all yours." The 4th century desert fathers, an assortment of eccentric characters who retired to the desert around Crete for a life of sacrifice and prayer, taught this story to illustrate the value of suffering and hardship. It wasn't hardship alone, however, that opened the city of wisdom to the disciple. The prime factor that allowed him to deal so effectively with the difficult situation was his capacity to shift perspective, to view his situation from a different vantage point. The ability to shift perspective can be one of the most powerful, effective tools we have to help us cope with daily life problems. The Dalai Lama explained the ability to look at events from different perspectives can be helpful. Then practicing this, one can use certain experiences, certain tragedies to develop a calmness of mind. One must realize that every phenomenon, every event has different aspects. Everything is of a relative nature. For example, in my own case, I lost my country. From that viewpoint, it's very tragic. And the area has experienced even worse things. There's a lot of destruction happening in our country. That's a very negative thing. But if I look at the same event from another angle, I realize that as a refugee, I have another perspective. As a refugee, there is no need for formalities, ceremony, protocol. If everything were status quo, if things were okay, then a lot of occasions you would merely go through the motions. You pretend. But when you are passing through desperate situations, there's no time to pretend. So from this angle, this tragic experience has been very useful to me. Also, being a refugee creates a lot of new opportunities for meeting with many new people. People from different religious traditions, from different walks of life, those who I might not have met had I remained in my country. So in that sense, it's been very useful to me. I invite you now to join with me in singing hymn 207, in your grading home, 207, earth was given as a garden. I have always loved the term end beginnings. It comes from a yoga tradition. To state the obvious, we are experiencing an end beginning right now. As we celebrate our last service of the church year, the end of our weekly practice of gathering in person pauses for a time. It ends. And it is this ending and this time apart for summer that allows for many new beginnings. In addition to what for many feels like an official start of summer, the end of the 2021-2022 church year is in fact a requirement for any future year of this congregation to begin. This ending is a prerequisite of sorts. Without it, there could be no homecoming Sunday of no 2022-2023 church year. Without an ending Sunday, we could just simply go on doing church. And as Ruby points out in our first reading, the danger of doing and doing and doing is that we become stagnant. We're sitting still. And we get stuck in our worldview, leaving little room for growth and transformation. Stuck in the same place, doing and doing and doing, it becomes difficult to see things with new eyes or to shift our perspective at all. The term end beginning is a way of helping me to remember that with every closing, something new, something different emerges. I love the way Unitarians generally end the church year with flower communion and begin again the Sunday after Labor Day with water communion. Even UU churches that go all year long have a flower communion in the springtime at the close of what they consider the regular church year. Or at least that's been my experience. And then they start again in the fall with water communion and a homecoming Sunday, even if they go all the way through the summer, to mark those changes in time and the differences in the church years. The cut flowers that we usually use in our flower communion are most closer to their ending. We cut flowers, even lilacs, in the lilac bush, people come and cut them and they tell me it's because, well, they know they're not going to last forever, right? And I say, yeah, they aren't going to last forever, you should enjoy them. Go ahead, cut the lilacs. Yet even dead flowers go to seed and they can be composted and begin again in a new form. This is the transformative end beginning I wish for us to celebrate on this closing Sunday. One that caterpillars experience when they go into the cocoon for a time of gestation before their rebirth and become a butterfly. So before relaxing into the slow pace mixed with adventure that I hope your summer offers, we end our church year. We bring to a close with this final service with our flower communion. So hopefully some thought-provoking words from me, and some life-enhancing music by the choir from Derry, and then some good fellowship on the green. This end allows us to complete one thing fully, immerse ourselves before we immerse ourselves in what's next, so that hopefully on September 11th, we can begin again anew. Last week, we celebrated numerous milestones in our children's lives in our congregation. For those of children who graduated from high school or college, I imagine the concept of end beginning will resonate very deeply with them. Kynan Davey, for example, could not become a UU Mass Amherst college student until he graduated from high school. Similarly, Tommy and Emery Nordahl, who many of you may remember as young boys, Tommy seemed all grown up yesterday when he was here for the yard sale selling art and baked goods to raise money to help the homeless, and he left a lot of cookies for us to enjoy today. Tommy and Emery, who are now just 15, but they seem much older, would be unable to dive into high school next year until they completed their middle school experiences. Another end beginning. Sometimes, though, we experience major transitions more like a beginning end, which can throw us for quite a loop. Just as the Dalai Lama points out, by being expelled from his own country under the threat of death from the Chinese government, then to have unspeakable destruction to the land and the nature that made his country so virtually uninhabitable that he could never return. There was an ending with no beginning in sight. So too in the story of Jesus. When he was led to his own crucifixion, he was only 42 years old. Yet he was not done living. And his focus was not fully on what was to come. For a time, despite the fact that the scriptures tell us he foresaw his crucifixion, he would indeed be an end beginning, the end of something temporary and difficult that would allow for the beginning of something everlasting and magnificent. When he was carrying his own cross, he knew that he was experiencing the start of something that would require a full stop, an end to his human life on earth. And there is great sorrow and pain and grief that can accompany full stop endings. The Christian scriptures describe that after about 9 hours on the cross, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you given up on this version of me? Why are you leaving me behind? Yes, even Jesus experiences some end, real hard end, before embracing the monumental end beginning. And that was and is okay. God didn't punish Jesus for experiencing an end of grief and sadness. It's just a side note in the scriptures, and there's no explanation. The ultimate before the ultimate and beginning. It is deeply important that we allow ourselves this same inner space, this complexity, especially during times of transition. Our emotional landscape is full of many complex emotions that with a slight shift of focus and perspective can liberate us to begin again in love. Tuesday afternoon at 4:30, Jenny and I got in the car to drive to Nobles for a 4-hour training so that we could work for a few weeks at the summer camp at Nobles. I'm going to be a craft director, and she's going to be an outdoor adventure director. But on the way out the door, Jenny grabbed an at-home COVID test just to be sure, and she said Nobles is only 1.1 miles away from our driveway, but at the time we pulled into the campus, the presence of a second line indicating a positive test was undeniable. I felt sad to have our plans change so abruptly, and more than a little worried for Jenny. Not to mention that I felt nervous about my own health. With a slight shift of focus, though, I was not without some real glee about not having to sit through a 4-hour training. And in a very busy week, when I had many things to do, prepare our house for company, and especially after we had the floors redone and the parsonage downstairs and put all the furniture back, which I to get ready for Lucy's graduation, and to sort things out, sort things we didn't want for the yard sale. So I was relieved. Yesterday morning, Jenny helped me pull out some things for the yard sale. She came down early in her 4th day, I think, of quarantine. She kept her mask on and we socially distanced. And she moved the things from the back of the house where she did sequestering. But she got tired really fast and was really pretty useless after about 15 minutes. I felt gratitude for her health, though, and compassion for her condition, but I felt also a great more frustration about not having enough help. I really actually realized how much I depend on Jenny to help me. With a slight shift of focus, I saw what I depend on her for, and how I often take her help for granted until it's not there. Having an end to her productivity for me for a while has helped me realize with new eyes what she does for me on a regular basis. And then, just as I was picking up from the yard sale, Jenny, who was struggling to do absolutely nothing, which is what she needed to be doing, decided that weeding a section of the brick patio with her hands would be too taxing and unwise. So she decided with her addled COVID brain, it would be a better idea to pick up the handheld battery-operated chainsaw that I gave her for Christmas and cut down some persistent bamboo in the backyard. As I drove her to the medical center right when I needed to be picking up from the yard sale to get the stitches in her finger that she almost cut off. Well, you can imagine the emotions I was experiencing. Yet this too made me remember what a community this church is. As others gathered up our stuff and folded up all the tables and chairs, I had a new awareness of how it doesn't have to all be me doing everything, how many hands make light work, and how Grace always has my back. Thank you, Grace, if you're watching. May Sarton did not use the term end beginning in the poem we read this morning, so many words, but she may as well have, as she issues this invitation to each of us. Let us step outside for a moment, among the ocean clouds, a white field, islands floating in the distance. They have always been there, but we have not always been there. Yet neither does she sugarcoat the beginning and end. We are dying away from things it is necessary. We have to do it. We have to die away from things sometimes. Sarton seems to know what the Dalai Lama means when he meditates on gifts that the tragedy of leaving Tibet bestowed upon his practice. She seems to understand the importance of shifting our perspective that each of us experiences in our own lives. I believe our flower communion is a reminder that we must end to start anew. This ending helps us shift our perspective so that we can live into more fully woken lives. In May Sarton's words, there is nothing to fear about this revolution, though it will change our minds. Let us step outside for a moment. It is all there. Only we have been slow to arrive at a way of seeing it. It is my hope as we end this 2021-2022 church year that we can step outside our regular church life and shift our perspective so that we can return again for water communion on September 11th. All new and ready to begin again. I invite you to sing with me hymn number 12, A Life That Maketh All Things New. Number 12, in your great hymn. Invite you all to finish out your bouquets with the flowers on the altar. I also want to make sure you stay on the steps after the service for our altar picture, and then we'll have a picnic. But let us fix our steps so we stagger not in the uneven motions of this world, but go steadily on our way, neither censuring our journeys by the weather we meet or turning aside from anything that might befall us. Amen.
We will go out with love. We will go out with joy in the Spirit. We will go out with love. Hallelujah. We will go out with joy. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We will go out with joy in the Spirit. We will go out with love. We will go out with joy in the Spirit. We will go out with love. Hallelujah. We will go out with joy. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We will go out with joy in the Spirit. We will go out with love.
So excited about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, they
Lots of flowers. Take a moment.
I ended the live stream.